Now you're the first generation farmer yourself,
Yeah.
but just the interesting dynamic and just story of this place.
Yeah.
But then also I just want to hear the story of you, Elizabeth, and how what's led you to where you're at on this farm, because that's a story.
I know. It might take us a lot of more hours, but yeah, I guess mine was a food journey and self-discovery, I guess. Just self-discovery through food, so I'll still say it was a food journey. And I don't know, I had the opportunity in 2014, I think I moved up to New York State, and had the opportunity to make a change in life. I had sold a business that I had in Lexington, and I was really starting to make some food changes. And I guess at that point, so that was 2014, I guess 10 years prior, maybe even less, maybe about 7 years earlier, I had started to organic was coming into a grocery store, and it was just one little section. And, you know, I grew up in the late 70s, and fat was demonized. I basically went my entire high school career or educational career with no fat in my diet.
Did you drink milk growing up?
Probably as a kid.
Skim? Because
I
remember that's all I drank, skim milk.
Exactly, yeah. Like everything was fat-free.
Yep.
And, you know, and I was just like basically starving my whole life, and wasn't necessarily skinny. It was just you were starving to death and never feeling what you needed. So then, you know, and in the grocery store, there's now this organic section that you're like looking at this food, and I was looking at food labels, and I was seeing like everything had a ton of fat, and I was like, I can't eat that, I can't eat that, I can't eat that. And I was like, wait, but who can? Like, why can't I eat this, and why can everyone else eat it? And so I really started to dive a little bit deeper into that and trying to understand why not, why couldn't I, and what were those things I was thinking about. And so as I did that, it was like starting to go to a farmer's market and starting to understand farmer's market food and clean food, and basically that's kind of what it went to, is just real food diet. Like my transition was slowly, but trying to understand what I could eat, and it's like, oh, I can eat real food. So if it's a whole vegetable, or if it's a meat, or if it's a whatever, like eat it. And there were some positives to the organic stuff, but I didn't need necessarily organic processed food. I just needed real food. And trying to change that lifestyle was like going to the farmer's market, getting some stuff, changing my food budget, changing everything. And that felt like enough at the time. I mean, it all went progressively. And then I guess when I moved here, I had the opportunity to shift into something more, and I really had a desire to learn more about my food from the hands-on thing. I didn't necessarily think I wanted to farm, but I did want to go to intern, like at a vegetable farm or something, to just, I felt disconnected from food. And I didn't do that because I had just moved here, I had just gotten married, I was starting a new job, and felt like that wasn't the smart thing or reasonable thing or adult thing to do, because I was probably at that time, well, I don't know, I should be able to figure out that math, but I was in my 30s, and I was like, no, you've got to keep going with your career and have a job. So I didn't do that. And so I went and worked for a grass-fed beef cooperative, and it was like really cool. It was like nearby, so it was like in a town next door. It was working with farmers. It was actually kind of sounded like a cool gig. The woman that started the co-op was a documentary filmmaker, and just kind of had all these cool connections. Even though that's not necessarily what I was looking for, I was like, oh, but that's fun. And I realized when I started working for them, I ended up working with about 100 different farmers in New York State. And as I met the farmers and I heard their stories and I saw their challenges, and actually even saw farming not work, but we were just trying to market grass-fed beef down to New York City for them and get a reasonable price. But I was there for about 3 years, and it was amazing how much I learned about the food system as a whole, and the negatives to that and the positives to that, but about food production, especially about meat and about pastures. And so I was just getting this like whole picture of food from all perspectives, from, you know, the big system, but also down to the one farmer who was, you know, raising 10 cows and trying to market those animals into this larger scale business model. And it seemed like it could work, and I enjoyed that work, but I really enjoyed learning, and it was all new to me, and I really loved the conferences, and I really learning about soil. Like, that was just like mind-blowing to me. Like, I just wanted to eat grass-fed meat because I knew it was better for me. And I really didn't even know all the details of why, I just knew it was better. and it was really hard to get. When I first had grass-fed meat, I had to fly it from all the way like out west. You know, like it was the only place you could get it from. Now I'm actually like working with farmers that do it, and it was really cool. And so as the soil stuff started, I started to learn about that and going to farmer conferences, basically trying to get farmers to join our co-op. I was like, ooh, I want to know more about that. Like, I don't want to stand behind my booth and like, you know, try to sell the marketing aspect of it. And it was actually towards the end of my time at the co-op really needed to have a big grow up stage. And I either needed to take a really big leap or go out of business. And those were the choices that the farmers had to make, and they decided to stay in business. And I was there to support them if that's what they wanted to do, but it was their choice, and it was going to be hard, and it wasn't going to be cute and fun like they thought, and wouldn't be on a documentary. It would be like real business and pretty cutthroat. I wasn't really sure that's what I wanted to go into, but I was at least willing to take them there and then move on from there. But I remember going to a farm, one of my farmers' farms, to just go and talk to him and try to create this new business model that would work for everyone. And I remember like viscerally getting out of the car, or out of my Jeep, and putting my feet on the ground, and I immediately knew I'm on the wrong side of the computer. I don't want to go back to that office.
What year is this?
I would say 2016. And it was just like, I'm done. Like, I've got to do this, but I don't know how to do this. So then I had to like, that's a hard thing when you know that shift happens, then to continue on not doing that. But that was part of the reasonable part of like, okay, I need to get this company where it needs to be in order to let it go. I need to get myself in a position, and how do I start farming? What does that even look like for me? So that's when my personal journey of like, what does that look like, and what am I trying to fulfill with that?
Well, what was it about whenever you got out to where you had that?
You mean why? Like, I don't know. Like, I know, but it was life knocking me in the face and being like, hello, how long are you going to ignore this? And when are you going to do it?
Yep.
And it was just, it literally, like, I loved my job up until then. Like, it was hard. Everything was new. I knew nothing about what I was doing. I was learning every day. But I felt fulfilled going to work for the farmers. That felt like enough at the time. But all of a sudden after that day, it wasn't enough. And I had to understand that. And I had to also, it was a big journey of understanding the difference between joy and happiness. This might be really sidetracked, so I'm sorry for it, but it was such a huge part of my journey because I was also getting close to 40 at that point, and I felt like I had made a lot of decisions in my life to not have a midlife crisis. Like, I'd done everything not normal in order to not do that, and I was like, oh my God, I think it's happening. And I was like, why? I didn't want this. But so I was like feeling this really strong urge that I wanted to farm. I wanted my hands dirty. And I had animal husbandry in the background, so I had a little taste of it. So it's not like it was this complete new world. I had horses for about 10 years, so I kind of knew what I was going back to. But I was like, why? What is going on in me? Why is that not me just wanting a shiny red Corvette? I don't know if that's what you need for a midlife crisis. Like, what if the farm is just a shiny new Corvette for me? And so I had to dig deep in that part. And that was so deep and so long ago. It was just a lot of reading and a lot of asking questions and a lot of discovery. But I kind of learned the difference between happiness. Happiness is the shiny Corvette, and joy, which is heartfelt and comes from the heart. And I was like, no, this is what I want to do, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to do it. Meaning, I made time to transition out of my executive job, and I went straight to an internship, which I had said I should have done in 2014, and I didn't do it when I originally felt the calling.
Yeah.
And that was a huge shift. So at that point, I knew I just needed to keep following that path. I had no idea what it looked like, and that was tough, right? We're supposed to know the plan. We're supposed to know what we're doing, and I have that personality that I want to plan and I want to know what I'm doing. So to let go of that and to have faith in that was important. But I just always kept going back to like what makes me happy. Oh, no, not even. What fulfills me? Like, so if I do farm, what do I want to do? And I was a little nervous of moving out to the rural area, so having people around was important, and staying connected, being part of the animals, but living the true rural life. And So I knew a farm stay was important aspect of the business model for me, and so I went to a farm that had a farm stay. But I also selected a farm that had a family. Like I don't have kids, but I wanted to understand that dynamic of a farm family. And they were first generation farmers, so they don't have the historic family that I'm learning about here. But I wanted to see what it took, and it's tough. It's not easy. It wasn't pretty. Some days it was pretty. It was beautiful in other days, but it was a tough dynamic, and it was tough to be a almost 40-year-old. I actually think I turned 40 that year, and that was crazy. I should have been like 22, and I was with 22-year-olds. But that in itself, being with 22-year-olds as a 40-year-old, that might have been almost one of my biggest lessons, was seeing youth and seeing curiosity and carefreeness again, because we get stodgy and tough on ourselves when we're 40. And those girls would like make stuff in the kitchen, and sometimes it would be fabulous. Other times you threw it away and you're like, what are you doing? Like, you can't do that. And why not? It's like, oh, I don't know. I'm not sure who made that rule. So it really helped me loosen up a little bit and take some more chances and see life a little bit differently, and really like, why am I doing this? Or why is that rule true? So that was my first major step and commitment to farming. And actually, even prior to that, I had looked at some other internships, because again, I was scared to go all in, because that had no outcome. That was just there for a season with nothing on the backside. And I thought, well, I should do an internship at Stone Barns, which is in downstate New York and is really well known for the food and especially chef and stuff. And I was like, oh, that would be better. And I applied for it. And I will actually say this was a really pivotal phone call, and I really appreciated it. So again, speaking from that beginner farmer mindset and how do I get started? What do I do? I'm not from a generational farm. I don't have any connections. So I put my application in, and part of my application was I know I'm not your typical applicant, and please look past that, and here's why, and this is what I'm looking to do. And I don't remember the guy's name, and I should, because he now has become important in the sense of what he said to me. And so he called me up, and he was like, so I've read your application. I just want to talk to you a little bit further. And so I explained to him more of my situation and what I was looking to do. And he was like, he said, I think this is not the right internship for you. He said, because you're just going to be schlepping buckets, and you don't need to schlep buckets at this point in your life to figure this out. And I was like, oh, but I will. Yeah. And I was willing. I was like, I will do anything. Yeah. And it was it was a little bit crushing. And I think I was at a point that I kind of needed that to work out. Something needed to go my way to tell me I was doing the right thing. And I was a little disheartened, and I just said, I was like, what does a 40-year-old woman do? That wants to get into this. I'm not the 25-year-old that this would be an easier first step for. What do I do? And he said to me, and I'll cry, without any, he didn't know me from Dilly, and I didn't know him, and he said, you just need to bridge the gap of that 25-year-old. And I don't think we talked much more about that. He just said those statements, and it meant something to me. I just didn't know what it meant. And I got off the phone, and the more I thought about it, was, oh, that's exactly what I should do. I have things that a 25-year-old doesn't have. I have experience. I have some financial assets. I owned a house. I had a job. I had a lot of things that I wouldn't have had at 25. And how can I, what does bridging the gap look like? And I think for me was actually finding a way to farm and showing a 25-year-old that it's possible. Because I was working with farmers that were showing me and telling me that it wasn't possible. I was seeing numbers that was not possible. So I always laugh. I'm like, it's crazy. I worked with 100 farmers that most of them, the cost of production was not getting covered. The fact that I'm raising grass-fed beef means I might be a little bit insane, because I was being shown it couldn't be done. But I was also showing the opportunity. So I think I had that sense of, oh, I can bridge that gap. I can show someone younger that this is possible. But I'm going to have to do it from a different approach and a different perspective. And yeah, from there, it was still trying to peel away at the layers of I'm going to try this. Because nothing fell in my lap at all. It was it was like kind of continuing to search. I actually had, before I met Brad, there was a goat farm. So I really wanted to do cattle, but I also didn't want to start anything from scratch. I'd started 2 businesses in my life from scratch, and I was like, I'm 40. I don't have the energy to do it, I don't think, and I don't want to, quite frankly. And so this couple, they were ready to retire, and they had a great business, and they wanted someone to farm sit. I needed time for transition. I was like, this would be great. I'll get 6 weeks on a farm. And they gave me access to all of their books so I could look through the business and see if I could develop a business model from it and see if I could purchase the farm from them. And there was a lot of like personal stuff there of just unwinding from real life and looking into those books. And I found a business plan that I thought could work. I figured one out. I put an offer on, and that farm had been for sale for like 4 years and no one ever put an offer on it. I put an offer on it thinking it was a done deal. A little scared because I did not necessarily want to farm by myself. That was the only caveat that I had of like, I don't really want to do this on my own. I really actually wanted to do it with someone. It didn't matter whether it was a love relationship or not. It was just, I wanted to farm with someone else. But I was like, that can come next. I can figure that out. But I'm ready to do this. And I put my offer in, and I don't know what the timeline was, but whatever time someone else had put another offer in at the same time, and they took that person's offer. So I got denied the farm. And that was like really crushing because I was like, it's here.
Yeah.
Like it came, it happened, it's working. And I was like, oh. So that's actually when I did do the internship at the farm stay because I needed time. Now I was buying time.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, I was all in. I was ready to make that transition. And now I'm back to square one and I need something to do. So for me now looking back, I'm like, I just had more work to do on myself and of really letting go of the old ways, quite frankly, and really determining what I did want to do and learning those things. So
What year was that, whenever that was going on?
that was 2017. So
And then, year later?
and then a year later I was here. Yeah.